The victory song, pretty much self-explanatory, right? But I'm quite interested in what happened in summer of 2022 in a hotel room in London, like he says in the second verse. So first of all, this song is connected to the first song on The Villain I Never Was, which is the Homeless song, which makes complete sense because the Homeless song was the first song on that album and the Victory song is the first song on this album. In the Homeless song, he was crying about how he had left home and how it had been 4 days since he and his boys had any place to stay. And then fast forward about a year or so, this guy finds himself inside of a hotel room in London. I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what happened in that hotel room because Blacko hasn't made any information public about that incident, as far as I know. But I think I have some idea. So summer of 2022 was when Blacko dropped the last single of the Villain I Never Was album, which is Soja. And when you listen to Soja, what Blacko is basically talking about is how he has prayed so long for a moment which eventually came, and how he was dealing with that moment because it was new to him and came with a lot of challenges. On Soja, he talks about how happy he was that he had found success and how anxious he was that he may not be able to live up to his name and the fame. So on the song, he was telling himself to remain strong and to not let them catch him off guard and get under his skin. And I'm here thinking that since Soja was released in summer of 2022, it does not sound like much of a reach to say that how he felt and was describing on Soja is what he references on the Victory song. It says, 22 summer in London, I was on, losing faith. I was bawling my eyes out in the hotel room I was on, but I never lost it. He said he was crumbling inside, but he was thugging it. Isn't that the whole point of Soja? And mind you, that summer of 2022 was right before he was about to drop his debut album. In fact, The Villain I Never Was released just 2 weeks after Soja dropped. And that whole uncertainty about how your debut album might be received by the public or how well it may perform, I believe is enough to make any artist anxious, lose their mind, and cry. Especially after seeing how an artist you look up to get treated with the release of their debut album. I also want to talk about these lines. He says, flying with no feather, impossible, but let me tell you, I do it. And the next couple of lines, take me wherever you want, my invisible black wings, flying intercontinental. I think it's a really beautiful piece of writing. So basically, I think the two songs, the Victory song and the Homeless song, are reflections of different stages in his life. The Homeless song is a reflection of that stage when he had left home and had moved to Accra to pursue his dreams. And the Victory song is a reflection of when those dreams had finally kicked off and he was about to move to the next stage of his career, that is to drop his album and to solidify his name. And also about how far he has made it since then. Obviously, in both songs, he was crying, but like Manifest said, tears don't discriminate between me and you, but I'd rather cry in a BMW. From crying about not having a room to sleep in to now crying inside of a hotel room in London, funded by Empire. I mean, I can't tell for sure, but at that point, he was already signed with Empire. And I don't think they are going to allow their artists to sleep in any cheap-ass hotel. So yeah, if you ask me, that's Victory right there. This could also explain why he was recently seen on stage shedding tears while he was performing the second song of his new album, which is One. Because if what I'm saying is true, then him performing in London at that time was like a full circle moment for him. From being in that place while he was so anxious about dropping his first album to now 2 albums later back in the same place with people seriously screaming and singing along to his lyrics. It's also enough to make a grown man cry. Of course, he was also emotional about the song because it's about his dad. But if there's one thing we have learned from this album is that whenever he talks about God, low-key, he's also talking about his dad. So on the Victory song, when he talks about losing his mind and losing faith inside of a hotel room, he mentioned that all he had was I and I. I and I is Jamaican patois for God, but from what we have already established, he could also be talking about his dad. And if that's true, it makes sense why One would immediately follow the Victory song on the Iron Boy album. Because then on the first song, he would mention how his dad was there for him during a specific period in his life, and on the second song, he would mention how he was there for his dad during a specific moment in his dad's life. Hence the lines, I, my father are one, onyameho, minyaneho. I mean, dude started to tour and perform the songs off of the album right the very day that the album dropped. And he had been to so many locations before London. And I'm pretty sure that out of all these locations, he must have performed one at least once or twice. But we never saw any videos of him crying while he was performing that song until we saw him performing it in London. From 22 Summer in London to 25 Summer in London. Full circle moment. If you like Ghanaian music and rappers with no daddy issues, follow for more.